In today's episode, we're talking about the importance of developing a relationship with a power greater than yourself, a divine power, that is. Welcome to the Fierce Authenticity Podcast, where we talk all things life, love, and leadership with a spiritual and social justice twist. I'm your hostess, Sharani M. Pathak, and I'm really excited to have you back with me today. If you're returning, then I'm so glad you're here week after week listening to the messages that pour forth through me as messages and reminders for you. And if you're new here, then I want to just welcome you and let you know that if you're a woman in leadership, in particular a woman of color, who struggles with imposter syndrome, the not enoughs, and feeling like you always have to go above and beyond, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you're here. I'm going to keep today's intro a little bit more brief because I have a lot of incredible content and information to share with you today. But I will say, first off, I really need your help. Whether you're a returning listener or this is your first time tuning in, I'm asking for your help. If you've been enjoying the podcast, if you're enjoying what you're hearing, if you're getting anything out of it, then please, please, please rate and review the podcast, because when you do so, it lets Apple Podcasts and all the other podcast algorithms know that what we share here on this podcast is important and valuable, and therefore they'll blast it out to more people so that more people can come and get nourished by the messages that we share here. So if you could help me out in that way, it would be greatly, greatly appreciated. My whole heart thanks you with so much gratitude if you'd be willing and able to do that. All right, now for today's episode, over the last couple episodes, we've talked about the fact that the personal and the professional are not separate, and that there comes a point where we have to move from problem to solution in order for us to be able to truly move forward in a world that's free from fear, free from illusions, free from all of the death, drama, and destruction that we see in this world. Free from the racism, the systemic injustices, the separations, the divisions. In order for us to be able to move through the world we see now to that other world, we have to talk about developing a relationship with a power greater than yourself, a divine power greater than yourself, because that's the only way for us to be able to move forward. Because the problem is we've lost sight of our relationship with the God of our understanding. And we've let fear and chaos and illusion become our world. And when that's become our world, of course there's going to be separation and division and death and murdering and violence and abuse and racism and all of the systemic things that go with that. Of course, there's going to be better than, less than, and the need to prove that you're worthy Of course. And now that we know the personal and the professional are not separate, but that they are indeed one, and that your ability to experience fulfillment, joy, and greater balance in your life depends on how well integrated you are versus how compartmentalized or fragmented you are. And that integration really does depend on a relationship with a power greater than yourself. In order for us to shift the chaos and the pain and the fear that we see in this world, so that we can instead experience peace, love, joy, happiness, and fulfillment, requires you to have a relationship with a source of some divine power greater than yourself. No matter what you call that power, whether you call that power the universe, God, goddess, source, love, the ocean, the giant redwood trees, Mama, Gaia, doesn't matter. You get to define that. But what is important is that you remember your connection with this source of divine power greater than yourself. Because without it, you're constantly spinning your wheels, going nowhere, and feeling like you just came off the battlefield. You keep buying into the illusions of needing to do more, wanting more, having to be more. You fall into the pattern of go, 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 force, 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 make it happen. And things are simply harder. Because when we're in that space of fear, illusion, driven by power, property, prestige, then we see the world that we have today. A world that's based on the exploitation of certain groups of people for the advancement of others. We see holocausts, wars, so that one group can remain dominant while the other remains subservient. And as long as those dynamics continue to be in play, we will continue to experience the world as it is. And our children will still be faced with racism, xenophobia, homophobia, misogyny, and all those cruel, cruel things we see today. Because everything we see today is what happens when we've lost connection with our higher power. And I'm not talking about the higher power or God that you learned about in Sunday school or at pujas at the mandir. That's not the God or the higher power that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the God or the higher power that you have a deeply intimate and personal relationship with. A God or a higher power whom, if you would let them, would show you what love and beauty and brilliance not only has the power to do, but that you possess all of these things inside of you. But what's happened is, over time, because we live in a world that shows us fear and chaos and death and drama and destruction, we've come to believe that that's real and that God must be awful and terrible in order for all of these things to happen on our world, on our planet. And trust me when I say that I know personally what it feels like to have experienced some of the awful shit we see in the world. And then to believe, well, if there is a God, that God must not care about me. As a woman with a significant history of personal, intergenerational, cultural trauma throughout time, we're talking about personally and in my family for centuries. Everything ranging from physical and sexual abuse to mental, emotional, and spiritual abuse, to colonization, white supremacy, and systemic injustice. It was really hard for me to trust in a higher power, to trust that there was a God, because I thought, if there was a God, why would all of these awful things have happened to me, my loved ones, and other innocent children and humans throughout the world? It wasn't easy to believe in or trust in a caring higher power who loved me unconditionally and took an interest in my well-being. I believed that there was something out there, but growing up in the Hindu religion, where it's been interpreted and taught to us from the sacred Vedic texts that certain rituals must be performed in a certain way in order to stay in God's favor. And that led me to believe that God's love and favor was conditional. And if you didn't do things just the way God wanted, or if you weren't exactly the way God wanted you to be, and if things weren't done in a prescribed XYZ order perfectly and to the T, then you would be punished. Which is actually kind of funny to think about, because if you listen to that carefully, what I just described is the fear that conquerors and colonizers use to control the people that they have conquered. That's not God. And yet, because that's what I learned growing up, and what I've heard from many of my friends and clients that I've worked with, growing up in the traditions that they've grown up in. And so for most of my life, I had a punishing God that took care of others, but didn't take care of me. So when I found the 12-step rooms of recovery for people who have had experiences such as I've had throughout my life, And they suggested that I develop a personal relationship with a God of my understanding, and that I turn my will and my life over to that God. You can imagine the resistance I felt. Like I said, I believed in something, but that something didn't care about me, and I sure as heck was not going to trust it. It's taken years and years, almost a decade actually, of actively working on that relationship. For me to develop a relationship with a higher power of my understanding, and then to fully trust that that higher power is looking out for me and my best interests. And that's still a work in progress. I still have days that I fall back into fear. But I am going to say, the days that I remember my higher power loves me and has got me, and that my higher power is going to work everything out, and that I'm exactly where I need to be, my days go so much smoother. Things come together as though miraculously. Everything flows. I feel happier, more content. I can see all the beauty and the joy and the love that I have in my life. I know exactly what to do, where to go, what to say, and to whom. I feel good on those days, and everything falls into place. And developing that relationship with the higher power did not come easy. It required a lot of prayer, meditation, keeping track of evidence of a higher power working in my life. And more recently, it finally clicked when a woman shared with me that you have to want a relationship with your higher power. And when she shared that message with me, it finally clicked. It finally clicked that I have to want to have a relationship with a divine power greater than myself. Because quite frankly, when I keep trying to rely on myself and my mere mortal will, there is always way more pain, way more heartache, and way more unfulfilling and bad days. And on days that I remember that I actually want to have a relationship with a power greater than myself, those are the days that I can feel God's love holding me, supporting me, guiding me easily and seamlessly throughout my day. And before we go, here's another thing that I want to share with you. All of those times when I thought God was punishing me and I felt abandoned and forsaken by God, which really only served as evidence that God doesn't love me or care about me. Evidence to support that erroneous belief. When I look back and I get honest with myself, it was me that had disconnected from God. God had never left me. Never. And that's because God is within me and I am within God. We are within each other. And as I think about it, I also think about the fact that my higher power loves me so much that they actually let me go out there and try to do things my way without them. And they would always be there when I got back, beat up by the world, and went crawling back with the prayer, "Dear God, please help me." My higher power was always there. Because that's what love does. Love lets others voluntarily evolve. It doesn't hold on tightly. It doesn't control, manipulate, or try to force its will. Love is there, patiently waiting, with its light shining whenever we are ready to see. Again, the truth is, God and I are not separate. Just like God and you are not separate. Which is why when I attempt to disconnect, God is still there, with me and waiting for me. And just like God is waiting for you. And because God loves and lives within each and every one of us. You, me, and even the people that we can't stand. And then I also realized that when I separate or disconnect from God, I forget my true identity and the identity of others. When I separate from God, I forget my mission on this earth and that all the power I need to accomplish it has already been given to me. I already have it. It's already living inside of me. And just like you already have all the power to accomplish the mission God has given you. And when I separate or disconnect from God, I forget that miracles are natural as and through expressions of love. And so when I remember that I am one with my higher power, I am one with God, and I reconnect with that, I can remember who I truly am, who you truly are, my mission here on this planet, which, spoiler alert, is the same mission that all of us have on this planet, which is to love and be loved. And I can remember that everything I need to accomplish that mission of giving and receiving love and of being love is already inside of me. And when I remember that, I also remember that miracles occur naturally as expressions of love. So this week I invite you to think about that. I know that what I shared here today was very deep and very different. And it's important for you to have this foundational piece in order for you to have that solid base, that solid foundation, so that you can move forward and be the miracle worker that you came here to be, so that together, you, me, and all the rest of our brothers and sisters in humanity can move forward and create that better world, that different world, that love-based world that we all desire so badly to see. And if you want to take what we talked about here and go even deeper, then head on over to www.fierceauthenticity.com/start here and sign up for my newsletter by checking the box that says yes to receive the bonus episode I recorded just for you that I only share with members of my newsletter community. The only way to have access to that private bonus episode is by signing up for the newsletter. And in that bonus episode, I walk you through a brief practice to support you with what we've done here. Until next time, I'm sending you so much love, and I'm trusting that your higher power, your God, the universe, is right there within you, patiently waiting for your remembrance of that connection. Take really good care. It's important for me to give credit where credit is due. And so I want to honor and acknowledge my podcast editor and the artist who developed our custom music, Diego Velázquez. I want to honor and acknowledge Ana Olvina, my assistant, who puts together all of the beautiful graphics and the transcript for every episode that you can find on the blog over at www.fierceauthenticity.com. For Jillian at Epoxy Studios for her amazing photography skills. It's her photographs that I use on the cover art and pretty much every image you see of me on social media. And lastly, I want to acknowledge my higher power, my source, my creator, my God, for blessing me with not only this amazing support team for the podcast, but for all of the amazing support that I have in my life, and for also blessing me with these messages that come forth from the divine and pour through me and become the messages that I share with you. Until next time, be blessed and be well.